Hello viewers and welcome back to the channel and an exciting roundup of new tech to share with you today. It appears that Campag has a brand new 13-speed group set on the horizon. There appears to be a new Cervelo S5 in the wild. Pirelli have some massive new road tyres up to 55mm wide, just launched. And the big question of today is, do we need or do we want tyre pressure sensing technology on our bicycles like many of us have in our cars? Zipp today launched generation 3 of their tyre pressure technology. I'll put chapter links down below if you want to skip ahead to the tech story that interests you the most. But we'll start with the new Cervelo S5. Now, since Campagnolo launched their radical Y1 RS earlier this year or the end of last year, there's been lots of speculation around the Cervelo S5 because the two bikes have a lot in common. And the S5, it's not that old, but it's been around for a few years, so prime for a new update. Hence the reason we can speculate this is a new bike being given final testing ahead of a likely Tour de France debut, because the Tour de France is just around the corner. And this is when we see lots of bikes being sort of previewed at smaller races and training camps before being unveiled at the Tour de France. And because the Campagnolo was developed with the new relaxing of the UCI rules around sort of 3-to-1 going to 8-to-1 in terms of the tube dimensions and these sorts of imaginary boxes that UCI has for tube shapes, there's lots of talk about how Cervelo might respond and how much they might push the new Cervelo S5 beyond the current version. But the answer is, if this is a new bike being spotted in the wild for the first time, not much appears to be the answer, because it looks almost the same as the current bike, which shows just how ahead of its game the S5 was and still is. And it looks visually very similar. Still has the wild V-shaped hover handlebar design, the same sort of time trial shaped bike with a seat tube hugging the rear wheel. So it looks very similar. The handlebar, although it looks the same, does look like it's been on a diet. And my speculation around the new bike, and it is just speculation, is they haven't really focused on aero as the main goal. I'm sure it'd be a few watts faster and more aero than the old bike, but I think the big focus has been on weight, trying to retain the aero performance of that bike, which is already very good and it still measures very well compared to other aero bikes in independent testing, but really trying to get the weight down as low or as close to the R5 and other sort of lightweight aero bikes like the Tarmac, for example, to make it a bike that the Tour de France squad can use either more of the time or the entire race. Because we are seeing how important aero is, not just on flat stages, but in the mountains as well. And there was a stage last year in the Tour de France when most of the Visma riders went to shallow rims to save weight, which is normal for a mountain stage, but Tadej bucked the trend and kept his deep section rims for a mountain stage. So I can see a shift where riders are trying to use the aero bike, the aero platform more of the time. So Cervelo can get the S5 weight down to the UCI weight limit or close to it or below it. Then the riders will have that option to go aero all the time. So that's my speculation on the new S5. Next up, it looks like Campag might have a new 2x13 speed wireless group set in the works. And if it is what it appears to be, and it's just speculation at this point based on spy shots from a race recently, then this could be the world's first 2x13 speed group set, a 26 speed group set. And the question of whether we need 2x13 is a topic for another video. Do we? Is 12 speed all we need? Well, Campag clearly think 13 speed is a way forward. So only 2 years ago, Campag launched their first wireless group set, Super Record, replacing their EPS wired group set, and it was a bit of a miss, to be honest. We had different size batteries, it's very clunky, and worst of all is they dropped their famous iconic thumb paddle shifter for 2 buttons replicating a Shimano setup. And I see why they've done this, because unless you're an older cyclist, the idea of the Campag shifting layout with a lever behind a brake lever and a thumb shifter is very counterintuitive compared to Shimano and SRAM. And younger cyclists and younger viewers brought up on Shimano or SRAM will have never experienced a Campag group set. So that was their attempt to try and compete with Shimano and SRAM and offer a shifting layout that's more familiar to younger cyclists, but they clearly done a U-turn and brought back the thumb lever, which I like, but I see why they made that shift 2 years ago, but now they're doing a U-turn, bring back the thumb shifter. So back to a thumb shifter and a paddle behind the lever, which is iconic to Campag. I'm sure older Campag fans will be delighted with that news. So that's one big shift on the new group set. The other is the fact that it's 13 speed, so 2x13. We've had 13 speed 1x group sets from Campag themselves with Ekar a few years ago, and of course SRAM with Explore. But this, as far as I know, as I'm aware, is the first 2x13 speed group set. And Campag do have history with being the first to 10 speed, 11 speed, 12 speed, and now 13 speed. They like being first with a new speed iteration of a group set, even though in the group set battle right now, they are a distant and I think lost third behind Shimano and SRAM, who are the two key choices in the group set world right now. And I love Campag. I've always loved Campag group sets. I've always rooted for Campag to do better than they have done and be a real third alternative and bring more competition to SRAM and Shimano, because competition is always a good thing. It pushes innovation and gives us more choice. And Campag haven't really lived up to that promise, that expectation for a long, long time. And they are clearly lost. Their Ekar 1x13 gravel group set launched 2018, many years ago. It was a great group set and the gear ratios were fantastic, but they didn't follow up that successful debut with another version. A cheaper version, which it did with GT more recently, but not actually cheaper due to pandemic price increases, or an electronic version, given the popularity of electronic wire shifting from Shimano and SRAM. So yeah, they're good with innovation, with first, but not really following up with more affordable versions. So this new group set, when it's launched, I've no idea. It's going to be a super record, so top tier group set, so way more expensive than SRAM Red and Shimano Dura-Race. Hopefully the group set impresses more than a super record launched 2 years ago and the technology works, but to really be successful, to really find a place back in the big table with Shimano and SRAM, they have to come out with more affordable versions, and I can't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm still rooting for Campag, but they're still flailing around at the edges of the group set battle really, and a real shame to see them go the way they have gone over the last 10 years, 15 years of sort of failure to really be the brand, the company they used to be back in the 80s and 90s, against the dominance now of Shimano and SRAM. But let me know your thoughts on a new Campag group set, and have you ever ridden Campag, ever owned Campag on a bike? I'm sure some of you out there have, so let me know by dropping a comment down below. Next up, we have some exciting tyre news. Who doesn't love a tyre story? Because Pirelli, hot on the heels of launching a 40mm version of their P0 TLR race tyre, even though it wasn't very racy given the thicker tread pattern, and you see my video on that tyre linked above, have now launched what they call an Enduro road tyre. Basically, this is their new Cinturato Endurance all-road light gravel tyre. So not a race tyre, not designed to be super lightweight and the best roll resistance, but a endurance tyre. So an all-weather, all-season, more reliable, more durable, longer lasting, grippier in the wet, and basically a tyre that you can fit and forget for your endurance bike, for your winter bike, or for touring as well. So all new tyre replaces that old version of the tyre, and they make some impressive claims for the new tyre. But firstly, it comes in a wide range of sizes: 28, 30, 32, 35, and then 40, 45, 50, and 55. So a wide range of width options for your classic road bike, endurance road bike, up to your modern all-road bike, then an option for a gravel bike as well. Because we are seeing many people use a gravel bike as a dual gravel off-road and road setup as well. Because most people, when they buy a gravel bike, realize it's not that slow on the road, even with a chunky tyre. So having one bike that can do everything with a change of tyres is very appealing right now, and these tyres are very appealing for that reason. So it's an all-new tyre made in Italy, and the one detail that really stands out is that the contact patch optimization and a new construction claims to deliver a 40% increase in mileage, a wear rate over the old tyre, despite the tyre thickness being the same. So a 40% increase in wear rate over the old tyre is very impressive indeed. That's using a new Smart Evo AS compound made from 50% recycled materials, which is really good to hear. Claimed to offer more grip across a range of surfaces, road and light dirt, in the wet and dry as well, and also more vibration damping as well, so more comfort from the tyres than the old tyres. And they are tubeless ready as well, with more puncture protection than their P0 race tyres. There's no word on a clincher version yet, but you can run the tubeless with inner tubes if you prefer a TPU inner tube, for example. So really interesting new tyre, loads of interesting technology, loads of sizes available. And what I like about Pirelli is on their packaging, they have the WAM measurement, the width as measured. So Gerard Ruman of 3T and Open fame came up with this new concept of WAM. It's also RAM as well, the radius as measured, because often when you fit a tyre to a rim, to a wheel, the width on a sidewall isn't the actual measured width when you put some calipers on there, because the internal rim width can make a difference to the actual width of the tyre. But Pirelli take this into account with the measurement provided. So for example, taking a 30mm wide tyre on a 21mm internal rim width, that tyre will actually measure 30. But on a 25mm internal rim width, like a Envy or a Zipp, that tyre will actually measure 32. So 2mm bigger. And that's really important and useful to know when you are fitting tyre to a bike, especially if you are maxing out the clearance on your road bike. The difference of 2mm could be the big difference between a tyre fitting and not fitting. So having that buying advice, that consumer advice information when you buy a tyre is very, very useful. And I wish more tyre brands did this, given how the tyre trend, the wheel trend is going wider and wider all the time. Knowing how wide a tyre will actually be is really useful. So really interesting new tyres from Pirelli. I have requested a pair in a 40mm width to test very soon. A size I've chosen to compare against a 40mm P0 TLR tyres and also against a 40mm slick gravel tyre as well, and see where they fit on that sort of scale. So a really exciting option for your endurance road bike like a 51 Seeker or Bridge Surveyor or Specialized Roubaix or Giant Defy, or your gravel bike, your Giant Revolt, your Canyon Grizzle. You want a nice road tyre for that gravel bike for winter riding. So let me know your thoughts on that by dropping a comment down below. And now onto the big story of today's video, or the question really is, do we want or need tyre pressure sensing technology on our bicycles? If you drive a modern car, it's likely a feature you have on your dashboard, but do we need it on bicycles? Well, SRAM clearly thinks so. It was first launched back in 2018 as a Quark Tyre Whiz, but it's now been renamed for version 3 as a Zipp Axis Wheel Sensor, which makes sense and fits into this ecosystem of Axis connected technology. So gears, dropper seat posts, electronic suspension on mountain bikes, and now tyre pressure sensing technology, all configurable through their smartphone app, and get all the data on your Hammerhead Karoo and likely other computers in due course too. And the big news here with version 3 of the tyre pressure sensor technology is the fact that it's built into the rims. Previously, it was a valve which you could retrofit to any wheels with a sort of flag and looked quite ugly and didn't look very nice on a modern road bike, but now it's built into the rims. So on the Pro side, it looks really seamless, it looks fantastic, and you can't see it from a distance or even up close at all. But the big downside is you can't retrofit this to any other wheels, whether Zipp or Envy or Hunt. You have to buy a new wheel set to get the technology. So that's a big downside straight away. So pros and cons. So how it works is very simple. You have the tyre pressure sensing technology in the rim with a battery which you can replace, and you can remove the whole unit as well, but very seamless as you can see from the photos and the video. And you have a small LED which flashes green. So before a ride, you simply shake the bike to wake it up and you get that flash of green, and you know the tyre pressure is in the optimum zone that you set in the app. So in the SRAM Axis app, where you go to configure your gears and other components from the Axis ecosystem and world, you set an upper limit and a lower limit, and that flash of green lets you know the tyre pressure is in that sweet spot. And that's a really useful feature because The one thing I do before every single bike ride, regardless of road, gravel or mountain bike, is check the tyre pressures. I make sure the tyre pressure is where it should be, and not too low, because with tubeless, you can lose pressure over time. And because I'm riding test bikes all the time, the bike might be stationary in the studio for a week or longer before I go for a ride on it. And having that flash of green from the rims could be very useful as part of your pre-ride routine. When you power your computer, make sure your power meter is calibrated, your heart rate's connected, and your gears are charged up and working, and your radar connected as well, and all the technology we have for a modern bike ride these days. And having that on your computer to see that your tyres are at the right pressure, or if they're a bit low and need inflating. Now, I haven't tried the new SRAM Axis wheel sensor myself properly, but I've had a play with the sensor technology and paired the device to my smartphone app, the SRAM Axis app on my smartphone. And yeah, it works very well. It's very easy to pair the sensor with the smartphone and add it to your garage of bikes, or add it to another bike in your collection in that garage. And it works very easily. In the app, you can set a high and low limit and an alarm for when it should let you know your tyre pressure is running low. And when you spin the wheel, it's green when it's in the correct pressure range. And if you let air out the tyre, the colour changes to let you know your tyres are low. So yeah, from a technology point of view, it does work. It does do what it sets out to deliver. Just a question of how useful this technology actually is. And we've all survived without tyre pressure, live pressure sensor data until now. But maybe there is something in our futures. I remain open-minded. Haven't tried it properly yet, but hopefully I'll get my hands on a set of wheels to try out in a long-term setup very soon. So personally, I remain on the fence about its usefulness on a road bike, but for a gravel bike, I'm definitely more on board. And recently I did a gravel race, and I started with too much air pressure because I freaked out by people puncturing, so I went higher on the pressures than I normally would. But the bike was too bouncy from having too much air in my tyres, they were too hard. So during the course of that ride, I let some air out of my tyres, undid the valve and let some air out of my tyres. But I had no idea how much air I was letting out. So in that scenario, the tyre pressure sensor technology would have been really useful to let me know I'll go from 26 down to 24 and not any lower. So that would have been really useful in that scenario. So I can see it being more useful for gravel. But at the launch, it's only available on 2 road wheel sets. Nothing available on the gravel side yet, the Explore gravel side, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time. Now, if you are keen on this technology, you're sold on the benefits of wheel sensing technology, there are 2 wheel sets you can choose from the Zipp range at launch. There's the 303 SW, the entry-level wheel set in the Zipp range, retailing from £1,700 or $2,200, or the top of the range, the 353 NSW, costing £3,500 or $4,300, and weighing 1,440 grams and 1,310 grams respectively. So essentially the rims are the same as before, the same rim profiles, all the same technology, but we do have new hubs, updated hubs, the ZR1 and the ZR1 SL on the top of the range wheel set, which has improved internals, saved 30 grams over the old hubs, and ceramic bearings on the top of the range hubs and steel bearings on the lower end hubs. But more details on the wheels and the hubs and other updates across the range in a future video. They've also made some running updates, a 404 and an 808, and they have some new Goodyear collab tyres as well. But more details on those at the SRAM Zipp website, linked down below. Hopefully I'll get my hands on a set of these new wheels and the tyre pressure sensing technology to test out very soon. But that's all for today. If you want to see some of the best products I've been reviewing recently, then watch your video right here.